So I'm standing in my own backyard watching a complete stranger force my $40,000 golden retriever to breed with a stray while camera equipment records the whole thing. And 5 other dogs I've never seen before are running loose across my property like this is some kind of backyard puppy mill operation. But I need to start from the beginning. Because the only way you're going to understand how I ended up here is if I tell you about the night my sister showed up at my door. See, 6 months ago, Diana called me sobbing at 11 p.m. saying her husband had cleaned out their bank account and disappeared with his coworker. She had nothing. No money. No plan. Nowhere to go. So when she asked if she could stay in my guest house for a few months while she got back on her feet, I said yes, because that's what you do for your family. I just gave her one rule. One single rule about Sterling that she swore on our dead mother's grave she would follow. So I'm going to tell you exactly how we got from that phone call to this moment. How she met a guy named Kyle 2 weeks ago. How I came home to those beat-up vans in my driveway. And what I discovered when I finally got close enough to see what head spread across my patio table because my sister didn't just break her promise. She handed my entire life to a stranger and let him burn it down. I'm standing there frozen, watching this guy Kyle hold Sterling down while this scruffy German Shepherd mounts her, and my brain just stops working for a second because this can't be happening. Sterling's making these awful, scared, yelping sounds I've never heard her make before. And there's camera equipment everywhere on tripods pointed right at them like this is some kind of professional shoot. 5 other dogs I don't recognize are running all over my property. 2 of them trying to jump the fence near my roses. And I can see they're scared too from the way they're moving. My mouth opens and I start screaming at Kyle to get his hands off my dog right now, and I'm running across the grass toward them. Kyle looks up at me for maybe half a second, then goes right back to holding Sterling in place while she tries to twist away. He tells me the dogs are in heat and they need a few hours to let nature take its course, and maybe I should go inside and watch some TV or something. I stop running because I'm so shocked by what he just said that my legs won't move anymore. That's when I see my patio table covered in papers, and I walk closer to look. Sterling's AKC registration papers are spread out there. Her championship certificates, her full pedigree going back 5 generations. Next to them are what look like breeding contracts with official-looking stamps and signatures. My hands start shaking so bad I have to press them against my legs, and this rage just floods through my whole body like hot water. I grab my phone out of my pocket and dial 911. And Kyle's still filming with one hand, while he holds Sterling with the other. The operator answers. And I tell her I need police and animal control right now. Because someone's forcing my dog to breed, and I think he's stolen other dogs too. Kyle actually laughs. I'm like, what? I'm like, what? That's when he hears me say that. Like really laughs out loud and yells over that I'm cock-blocking his dogs. I give the operator my address, and she says units are on the way. 2 of the female dogs running loose keep trying to jump my back fence, and they look thin and scared, and that's when I know for sure they don't belong to Kyle either. I move closer to the patio table to look at the contracts while I wait for the police, and I can see they're supposed to be breeding agreements with my signature at the bottom. Except I never signed anything, never agreed to any of this, and my signature looks wrong. Anyway, I hear sirens after what feels like forever, but is probably only a sign that I'm not. I run to meet them in my driveway and start explaining everything so fast the words run together. One of the officers, this tall woman with her hair pulled back tight, tells me to slow down and start from the beginning. I'm trying to explain about Kyle and Sterling and the stolen dogs when Bethany Caldwell from Animal Control walks past me into the backyard. She takes one look at 2 of the female dogs near my fence and grabs her radio. I hear her say she recognizes them from theft reports filed last week, and she's calling for backup to secure the animals. Kyle is calling for backup. Kyle is still in my backyard arguing with the other officer, saying he has permission and legal contracts for everything. That's when this older detective in a suit walks over and the officer calls him Detective Gentry. Gentry asks Kyle to show him the paperwork, and Kyle points at my patio table like he's proud of it. Detective Gentry picks up the breeding contracts and studies them for maybe 30 seconds before he looks at me. He asks if this is my signature, and I tell him no. I never signed anything like that. Gentry's face changes, and he looks back at Kyle and asks where his breeding license and business registration are. Kyle's face goes completely white. Kyle's face goes completely white. Kyle's face goes completely white. Kyle starts talking really fast about how this is just a side hustle. And Diana said everything was fine, and he thought it was all legal. Gentry tells him to stay right where he is, and walks over to Kyle's van parked in my driveway. Bethany Caldwell is already there with another animal control officer, and they're searching through the back. I follow them because I need to see what else Kyle brought to my property. Bethany pulls out a cardboard box full of papers and starts going through them. She holds up what looks like health certificates. Except when she shows them to Gentry, he points out they're fake because the vet stamps are wrong. Then she finds a notebook with a list of addresses. Maybe 20 of them, and next to each address it says things like Premium Targets or Champion Bloodlines. At the bottom of the box there's a bank envelope. And when Gentry opens it there are deposit slips totaling over $30,000. Bethany tells me Kyle's been running this scam across 3 states. Finding show dogs whose owners travel for competitions and using family members or friends to get access. She says they've been tracking him for 2 months but couldn't catch him in the act until now. Gentry walks back to Kyle and tells him he's under arrest for animal theft, forgery, and operating an illegal breeding business. Kyle starts yelling about his rights and how he didn't do anything wrong. And the officers have to physically turn him around to put handcuffs on him. He's still screaming when they walk him to the police car, saying this is all a misunderstanding and Diana can explain everything. I run back to Sterling because I need to get her away from that German Shepherd. But when I try to pull them apart, Bethany stops me. She says separating them now could hurt both dogs and I need to wait until they separate naturally. I call my vet, Dr. Emery, and he answers on the second ring. I'm crying while I explain what happened, and he tells me to bring Sterling in the second they separate. Not to wait even 5 minutes. He says he needs to examine her right away and we'll figure out what to do from there. I'm sitting on the ground next to Sterling trying to comfort her when I hear another car pull into my driveway. Diana gets out and sees the police car with Kyle in the back, and she starts screaming before she even reaches me. She's yelling that I've destroyed her future husband's business empire and am ruining her chance at financial stability. I stand up and pull out my phone to show her the eviction notice my lawyer texted me while the police were taking statements. Diana looks at the screen and then at me like I just stabbed her in the heart. She says I can't do this to her. She has nowhere to go. But I just shake my head. Detective Gentry walks over with the breeding contracts in his hand and asks Diana if she gave Kyle access to my property and Sterling's papers. Diana starts saying she had no idea Kyle was doing anything illegal and she thought he was just a dog breeder trying to build his business. Gentry shows her the contracts with my forged signature and asks if she knew about these. Diana's face goes pale and she starts crying, saying Kyle told her ID agreed to let him use Sterling for one breeding session and she believed him because she wanted to believe someone could fix her life. She says she was so desperate after her divorce that when Kyle promised he could help her make money, she didn't ask enough questions. Gentry tells her she's going to need to come down to the station to give a full statement and, depending on what she knew, she might be facing charges too. Diana looks at me like she's waiting for me to help her. But I just turn away. The German Shepherd finally separates from Sterling about 20 minutes later. And I get her into my car so fast I almost forget to close the back gate. I drive to Dr. Emery's emergency clinic with Sterling shaking in the back seat and the whole way there I'm trying not to think about what this means. Dr. Emery meets me at the door and takes Sterling straight back to an exam room. He's checking her over while I stand there useless, and after about 15 minutes, he tells me Sterling is physically okay, but very stressed. Then he says the breeding almost certainly took based on the timing and how long they were locked together. I sit down hard on the exam room floor because my championship show dog's career is over. Sterling was supposed to produce 3 more litters of documented champion bloodline puppies worth $15,000 each, and instead am looking at mixed breed puppies. I can't sell to anyone who cares about pedigree. My reputation in the breeding world is over. Reputation in the breeding community is going to be destroyed because even though this wasn't my fault, people will think I was careless with Sterling's bloodline. Dr. Emery is talking about monitoring her for pregnancy and making sure she stays healthy. But all I can think about is how Diana swore on our dead mother's grave she would never bring other dogs near Sterling, and she handed my entire life to a stranger who burned it all down. Dr. Emery finishes his exam and looks at me with this expression. That's trying to be professional. But I can see the pity underneath. He tells me Sterling is physically okay. No injuries from the forced breeding. But she's traumatized and I need to watch her closely for the next few weeks. He explains the signs of pregnancy to look for and says, well, do an ultrasound in 2 weeks to confirm, and then he starts talking about monitoring for complications. But I'm barely hearing him because I'm sitting on the cold floor of his exam room with Sterling shaking in my arms. She won't stop trembling. Even though the German Shepherd is gone and we're safe here, and I realized I completely failed to protect her. I trusted Diana's promise on our dead mother's grave, and she handed my dog to a criminal who violated everything. I built my life around Dr. Emery asks if I have someone who can stay with me tonight. And I just shake my head because the only family I have is the person who caused this. He writes me a prescription for anxiety medication for Sterling and tells me to call him immediately if she shows any signs of distress. And I drive home with her still shaking in the back seat. The house feels wrong when I get there, like someone broke into my safe space and rearranged everything, even though nothing looks different. I set up Sterling's bed in my bedroom instead of her usual spot in the kennel area because I can't stand the thought of her being alone, and I spend the whole night on the floor next to her watching her breathe. 2 days pass in this horrible fog where I barely eat and can't focus on anything except watching Sterling for signs that she's okay. My phone rings and it's Detective Gentry. And the second I hear his voice, I know he has more bad news. He tells me they've identified 12 other victims whose champion dogs were stolen or accessed through similar scams, and Kyle has been running this operation for at least 18 months across 3 states. Gentry explains that the other owners are filing a class action lawsuit against Kyle and possibly his accomplices. And he wants to know if he'll participate since my case involves both the forged contracts and my sister's direct involvement. I ask him what happens to Diana. And he says that depends on what she knew and when she knew it, but right now she's cooperating fully with their investigation. He tells me the DA is building a strong case. And my testimony about the breeding contracts and Diana's access to my property will be important. I hang up and stare at my phone for maybe 20 minutes, trying to process that there are 11 other people going through exactly what I'm going through. 11 other champion dogs whose bloodlines got destroyed by Kyle's greed. The doorbell rings 3 days after the incident. And I look through the peephole to see Diana standing there with her eyes all red and puffy. Part of me wants to ignore her, but a bigger part needs to understand how she could do this to me, so I open the door. She starts talking before she's even fully inside, saying she needs to explain everything and she knows I hate her, but please just listen. We sit down at my kitchen table and she breaks down completely, telling me Kyle love-bombed her for 2 weeks after they met at some coffee shop where she was working part-time. She says he made her feel special and wanted after her ex-husband destroyed her self-worth. And he promised he could help pay off her divorce debts if she helped him with his breeding business. Diana admits she knew it sounded too good to be true. But she was so desperate for someone to see value in her that she convinced herself it was real. Then she tells me about when Kyle asked about Sterling, how he seemed so professional and knowledgeable about champion bloodlines. And she thought helping him would prove she could contribute financially to her own life, instead of being a burden on me. She says she showed him Sterling's papers and pedigree certificates because he said he needed to verify her lineage for a potential breeding partnership, and she actually believed that's what he meant. I let her finish talking, and then I tell her that being desperate doesn't excuse breaking the one sacred promise I asked her to keep. Diana starts sobbing harder and says she knows. She knows she destroyed everything. But she was so scared of being homeless and alone that she made herself believe Kyle was legitimate. She admits she gave him access to my property when I traveled for dog shows, told him my security code, showed him where I keep all of Sterling's documentation and health records. The betrayal cuts so deep I actually can't breathe for a second, like someone reached into my chest and squeezed. I ask her if she knew about the forged signatures, and she swears she didn't. Says Kyle. It's her own fault. And I know that I'm the one who cut you off from being a dog. I also know that I wasn't even a dog until I saw you two on the road to the hospital. Kyle must have done that himself, using the documents she gave him access to. Diana tells me she thought it was just one breeding session with proper contracts and compensation, and when she realized what was really happening, she tried to call Kyle but he wouldn't answer. I look at my sister crying at my kitchen table. And I don't know if I believe her about not knowing. But I also see how much she's destroyed herself along with everything else. The eviction moves forward because I can't let her stay here anymore, not after this. Diana. Property entirely so I don't have to watch. I see her carrying boxes to her car through my window. And every time I feel this horrible mix of anger and guilt that makes me want to scream. On her last day she leaves a letter on my kitchen counter and I read it once before putting it in my junk drawer. She apologizes for everything and says she'll testify against Kyle if it helps my case, and she understands if I never forgive her, but she hopes someday I might. The letter sits in that drawer for weeks and I don't look at it again because I'm not ready to forgive, but I'm also not ready to completely destroy what's left of our relationship by throwing it away 2 weeks after the incident. I take Sterling back to Dr. Emery for the ultrasound. And he confirms what I already knew. In my gut she's pregnant with approximately 6 puppies and I have to make decisions about what to do with mixed breed puppies that have no market value in the champion breeding world. Dr. Emery asks if I want to discuss terminating the pregnancy, and I actually consider it for about 5 minutes sitting in his exam room, looking at the ultrasound images, but I can't bring myself to do it. Because none of this is Sterling's fault and these puppies didn't ask to be created this way. I tell Dr. Emery I'm seeing it through and finding good homes for them, even though it means months of financial loss and probably the end of my breeding business reputation. He nods and starts explaining prenatal care and what to expect during the pregnancy. And I'm taking notes, but all I can think about is how I'm losing $15,000 per litter for 3 more planned champion litters that will never happen. Now Detective Gentry calls me the next week and tells me Kyle is facing felony charges across multiple jurisdictions, including animal theft, forgery, operating an illegal breeding business, and fraud. The DA wants Diana to testify about how Kyle recruited her and gained access to my property, and Gentry says her testimony will be important because it establishes Kyle's pattern of manipulating vulnerable people to access valuable dogs. Diana agrees to cooperate fully when Gentry contacts her. And he tells me this strengthens the case significantly because it shows premeditation and a clear system Kyle used. Repeatedly I ask Gentry what happens to Diana legally, and he says the DA is still deciding, but her cooperation and the fact that she was also a victim of manipulation will probably work in her favor. Part of me wants her to face consequences, and part of me knows she's already facing them by losing her relationship with me. The next 6 weeks pass in this strange routine of caring for pregnant Sterling and trying to process everything that happened. I feed her special prenatal food, take her for gentle walks, monitor her health obsessively, and prepare the whelping area for when she delivers. The routine gives me something concrete to focus on instead of just sitting in my anger and grief about what Kyle destroyed. Sterling starts to relax more as the pregnancy progresses, and her fear response to strangers decreases, which Dr. Emery says is a good sign. My anger at Diana shifts slightly during these weeks because I start to see how Kyle manipulated her, the same way he manipulated those other 11 victims, using their vulnerabilities against them. It doesn't erase what she did or make it okay, but I understand better how someone desperate and broken could convince themselves that an obvious scam was legitimate. I still don't call her or respond to the 2 texts she sends asking how Sterling is doing, but I only do it when I feel like I should be the one to respond to her pleas. But I understand better how someone desperate and broken could convince themselves that an obvious scam was legitimate. I still don't call her or respond to the 2 texts she sends asking how Sterling is doing, but I I also don't block her number completely. Kyle's preliminary hearing happens 2 months after his arrest, and I drive to the courthouse to give my victim impact statement. The courtroom is full of other victims and their lawyers, and I recognize 2 other dog breeders from competitions I've attended. When it's my turn, I stand up and explain the financial damage to both Sterling and my breeding business, how her career as a champion producer is over, and how my reputation in the breeding community is destroyed, even though this wasn't my fault. I talk about the emotional trauma of watching my dog get forcibly bred while I was powerless to stop it, and how I trusted my sister to protect Sterling and she handed her to a criminal instead. Diana testifies after me about how Kyle targeted her vulnerability after her divorce, how he love-bombed her and made promises about financial stability, and how he used her to access my property and Sterling's documentation. Watching her take accountability publicly in front of all these people helps something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe the beginning of understanding that she's genuinely sorry and trying to make it right. The judge denies Kyle bail after hearing from multiple victims and reviewing the evidence of his 18-month operation across 3 states. The DA tells me afterward that they're building a strong case for a multi-year prison sentence, plus restitution to all the victims. And Kyle's public defender is already talking about a plea deal. 3 of the stolen dogs have been returned to their owners after being recovered from Kyle's other properties. And Bethany from Animal Control tells me the backyard breeding community has blacklisted Kyle's name across every forum and registry. Detective Gentry shakes my hand outside the courtroom and says my case was important because the forged documents and Diana's testimony established clear patterns the DA can use against Kyle. I drive home feeling like maybe justice is actually going to happen. But it doesn't change the fact that Sterling is still pregnant with puppies I can't sell, and my breeding business is still going to be a mess. 3 months after the courtroom hearing, Sterling goes into labor on a Tuesday morning, around 6 a.m. I wake up to her pacing circles in the whelping box I set up in my bedroom, and I call Dr. Emery, who tells me to monitor her and bring her in if anything looks wrong. The first puppy arrives at 8:30, and then 5 more follow over the next 6 hours. And I sit on the floor next to the whelping box watching Sterling clean each one with this fierce protective instinct that makes my chest hurt. These puppies didn't ask to be born from a forced breeding in my backyard, and despite everything Kyle destroyed, I'm still going to be able to keep them alive. I'm going to be able to keep them alive. I can't blame them for existing. The one who looks most like Sterling has her exact golden coat and those same gentle eyes. And I decide right then I'm keeping her and naming her Penny because she's like a little copper version of her mother. The other 5 puppies are healthy, but they're clearly mixed with the German Shepherds. Darker coloring and broader build, which means I can't sell them as championship bloodline dogs, even though Sterling's genetics are worth $40,000. I spend the next 8 weeks caring for the litter and screening potential adopters through a process that would make the FBI look casual, because I refuse to let the FBI know that these innocent animals end up with anyone who won't give them the best possible life. Each adopter fills out a 10-page application, provides 3 references, allows a home visit, and signs a contract promising they'll return the puppy to me if they can't keep it for any reason. I don't charge championship prices because I can't, but I make sure every single puppy goes to someone who will love them the way they deserve. 4 months after Diana moved out, she texts me asking if we can meet for coffee, and I stare at the message for 2 days before I finally respond, yes. We meet at this place downtown where she's working as a barista. And when I walk in, she's behind the counter making someone's latte with her hair pulled back and wearing a green apron. She looks thinner and tired, but also somehow more solid than she did living in my guest house. Like she's actually standing on her own feet for the first time in years. We sit at a corner table with our drinks, and the first few minutes are so awkward I want to leave. But then Diana starts talking about the therapy she's doing twice a week to figure out why she was so easy for Kyle to manipulate. She tells me her therapist says she was looking for someone to rescue her instead of learning to rescue herself. And Kyle saw that weakness and used it to get what he wanted. Diana says she understands if I never fully trust her again. And she wouldn't blame me. if I decided to cut her out of my life completely, but she hopes maybe someday we can rebuild something, even if it's different from what we had before. I tell Diana I'm not ready to have her back in my life regularly because the betrayal cut too deep and I need more time to heal from what she did. But I also tell her I don't want to lose my only sister forever, because we're the only family each other has left after Mom died. And we agree to try monthly coffee meetings with clear boundaries about what we can. She asks about Sterling and the puppies. And when I show her photos on my phone, she starts crying right there in the coffee shop, saying she's genuinely sorry for destroying something I worked so hard to build over 10 years of careful breeding, and so I don't know one better. I watch her wipe her eyes with a napkin, and I realize she really does understand what she took from me, even if understanding doesn't fix the damage or bring back Sterling's championship breeding career. 6 months after finding Kyle in my backyard with his camera equipment and stolen dogs, Sterling and Penny are thriving in a routine that feels almost normal again. I purchased 2 new champion females from breeders I trust to slowly rebuild my business. And while my reputation took a hit from the scandal, the breeding community mostly understands I was a victim too. Diana and I exchange texts every week or so, usually just checking in or sharing something funny. And it feels cautiously hopeful in a way I didn't think was possible back when I served her that eviction notice. The betrayal changed me in ways that will never fully heal because I'm more guarded now, and my boundaries are reinforced with steel instead of trust. But I survived having my sister hand my life's work to a criminal who tried to burn it all down. And am building something new from the wreckage that feels stronger even if it's smaller. Sterling lies on her bed in my bedroom with Penny curled against her side, and I watch them sleep and think about how we both had to survive something we never should have faced. But we're still here, and we're still fighting.